Hey everyone, it's Warriors NRL Fanatics. Welcome to the channel. And tonight, joining me for the very first time is the Warrior Alex. So those of you who probably aren't aware who he is, he's another content creator out there, Warriors content creator. He does some great videos and he's doing some good work there as well. And he's pretty much, I sort of think he's well known around the Warriors fan base right now. So it's good to have you on here, the Warrior Alex. It's great to have you on the channel for the very first time. Obviously, we've been trying to organise this for some time, but because you've been in a different country, living over there and working over there, it's been tough to get you on at certain times. But it's great to have you on tonight, and yeah, it's good to actually finally get to do this little video with you tonight.
Cheers, my mate. Thanks for having us on. Yeah, mate, apologies for that. It's a bit hard sort of splitting my time between New Zealand and Japan and managing businesses in different time zones and with you in a different time zone, but it's good we finally got it done, eh?
Yeah, it's great. And just say hello to everyone in the chat. So just pop in here and say hello to Jacko here. Evening, folks. Hello to Jacko here. And the Clove Stuff, how's it going? The Clove Stuff, it's good to see you in the chat as well. So, yeah, before we get into the whole meet and greet of the review, which obviously the result didn't go away on the weekend down there in Napier, we're going to chat about that soon. We're going to review the game and go through the player ratings and all that sort of stuff. But before we get into it, why don't we get to know first, just this one here, sorry, get to know the Warriorholic. So you're a massive Warriors fan, but how did you become, a Warriors fan? Were you born up being a Warriors fan, through the younger ages, or?
I'm a bit older than you, man. So I started to get into league back in the mid '80s. Back in those days, we had a pretty strong domestic competition in New Zealand, and my local team, Upper Hutt, was the Tigers. They were pretty legendary. And then in about '88, we started to get the Winfield Cup coming across, and it was initially on VHS. It was come out in the video shops every week, and then they started playing it live, I think, from about maybe maybe it was a grand final and stuff we got from about '88. So I was initially a Tigers fan because, the same jerseys and stuff as my local, but patched over to the Warriors from day one back in 1995, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. And 1995 was obviously the special time when the Warriors came into the NRL comp. I was born in '96, so I didn't obviously I didn't see it. So I was very young. But I was young when they started to get into the comp. So I started supporting the Warriors through the the 2000s, and then that's how I got involved in the Warriors. And now I'm a massive fan. I've always been since day one. Since forever actually. So yeah, Warriorholic. Who was your favorite player you grew up watching? Did you enjoy the most? Like who was a player that stood out for you for the Warriors?
I mean, you go way back to the originals. I was a big Brandy Alexander fan. From his days at Penrith and the like, and playing for the Blues. But probably, I don't know, the two players that stand out for me would be Ali Lauatiti and Jazz Tavanga, mate. Those two guys, I just love the passion and the heart they both play with.
Yeah, and just a comment here from the Close Stuff saying you fast yourself infuriated at the club expect announcement that you'll be getting a role soon. Yeah, you've been getting around, haven't you?
Oh, mate, it's I don't tend to do things by halves, and it just turns out like I up in Napier there ran into a couple of guys that I'd actually known, like one of the guys in the commercial team from back in the radio sports days, and Glenn, the commercial manager there, I kind of met him, and I've been chatting with Jazz and stuff online for a while, so a few connections, but looking to build that, and stay tuned for another couple of little projects I got coming out, which aren't directly related specifically to Warriors, but we'll have a strong link with them. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I like the jumper that you're wearing there. Is any chance we can buy some of it, merch?
Oh, I'd have to chat to the Warriors, mate. I'm not sure. There might be trademark issues with the proper logo in the middle there. I might have to get a little bit of a slight redesign on that. But yeah, I threw this thing together and thought it was a good way to promote myself when I went to the game and stuff, and put the ad on the back and so forth. But you got to fly the flag, eh?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I really like it. I love the jumper that you're wearing. I think for me it's pretty awesome actually. Probably something that I'd consider buying, actually. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's quite funny, actually, mate. Going up there in Napier, just random people, like I'd say, g'day to on the street, and they'd take a look and they go, "Shit, are you the Warriorholic?" And even coming home, I'd stopped off to buy a bloody pie, and I was walking back to the car in the middle of nowhere, and I just hear this guy going, "Zane, Zane!" And I'm turning around, I'm like, there's this guy there holding his kid. He goes, "Man, I watch you all the time." So I think having this on sort of helps people put two and two together. It's not too many people with a sexy face like this, but the Warriorholic jumper certainly helps.
Yeah, and I just saw a comment here by the club staff. He's saying, how about trying to get a gig on SENZ Zone? Could always take Tony Kemp's job. So, yeah, you've been making a lot of appearances on that on the radio station there in New Zealand. So,
mate,
what's that like? Jumping on. Yeah.
That's kind of how I basically got into this whole thing, mate. When I spent, most people might not know, I spent 25 years in Japan. Went over when I was 21 just to have a few beers and got addicted to the place. And when radio sports started to go live online, I used to listen to them on my iPhone everywhere I went in Japan. And I always envied the regulars who'd call up, randoms like Graham and Jason stuff.
Yeah.
So when I moved back to New Zealand, I swore I'd give it a go, but they shut down during COVID when I moved back. So when SENZ came on, I gave them a try, and then I started calling the guys at SEN in Australia. And this year, Martin Devlin's been kind enough to give me a regular weekly gig on the platform there, doing a Warriors review. So
nice.
That sort of kind of triggered me to, man, why not give it a go with the whole hog with the social media as well.
Yeah, so what made you start up a YouTube channel? Because there's a lot of Warriors fans, that are very passionate. They love their team. There's some people out there that probably aren't too, probably too afraid to, jump on a platform and share their voice. But for you, what was the reason why you, started up a YouTube channel?
Like, mate, I've got a face for radio, but my work being in New Zealand and my work being in Japan, I spent a lot of times on Teams staring at my own face over lockdown and kind of got used to it. So I thought, bugger it. And also, like, I don't know, I've always been a bit of just useless at tech, mate. There's a lot of new tools coming out that make it really easy, like Canva and on Riverside and the like. So I thought, mate, stop making an excuse and just give it a go. And the other key thing that sort of drove me into this was last year. There's always been a lot of negativity amongst the Warriors fans, but it just started to get so toxic and so personal towards some of the players. And I spent a lot of time away from my family. I spent 12 weeks at one point in the middle of COVID in Japan away from my family. Couldn't get back. And I knew what guys like Sean Johnson that were going through, and I just didn't think it was fair that everything was so aggressively negative. So I thought, no, this year I'm going to launch this Warriorholic with the persona of being, the most passionate, balanced, and positive supporter out there, trying to emulate, half of what the Mad Butcher does there and put a bit of balance into the negativity.
Yeah, that's well said, because I've just only come across you this year, and like what I've seen from you is you tend to give a balanced view, on the team, and you're very passionate.
Yeah, I mean,
about
I only kicked it. Honestly, I only kicked it. I started calling up the radio at the end of last year, and I started the station in the preseason, to be honest. So I've only been in this like 6 months. So it's pretty stoked that a few people actually watch me.
Yeah, it's awesome. But when as a Warriors fan, we know we've been through some tough couple of years. It's always been a roller coaster as a supporter, and we always live by our team, win, lose or draw in that. But you had the tough periods with the COVID and the team being based in Australia for some time. But obviously you're a fan, but when you were based overseas, how did you watch the boys? So how were you able to?
Way back in the day, man, my mum used to send me VHS videos to Japan, but once the broadband internet started up, there's a site called Across the Tasman that people used to upload torrents of it, and then the NRL Live app's been going now for about must be 5 or 6 seasons. So I've always been managed to find a way to access it, and also like listening on radio commentary to listen to the continuous call team online and the like. So always found a way.
Yeah, that's awesome. But it's like, what do you think now? Like of the team currently? Like obviously, this is a different sort of team than what has been in the past couple of years. We've got Andrew Webster now coaching the side, and there's been some positive changes at the moment. What the team's going through. What is your general senses right now? Like your thoughts around the team at the moment?
My biggest frustration last year was guys signing for the Warriors with never having any intention to come into play in New Zealand, just kind of using us, not looking like their heart was generally in it. It was just like a paycheck, and that really frustrated me. And you look at guys like Jazz, who like puts everything out there. He's a one club man, and that really disappointed me. But the minute Webby walked in, everything changed, and it was really interesting. In the interview I got to do with Jazz last week, he said it was literally within a day the culture changed within that club because of the way Webby was able to break down his vision and inspire the team of what they were genuinely capable of if they were willing to put in the effort. And luckily, they'd actually recruited a couple of really competitive guys even before Webby had committed to come who fit his mantra. So it's just that the fact that they're so competitive and everything they do from the sounds of it, and it's transferring into the field, that, you couldn't accuse one of the Warriors of not making an effort this season. We might not have played the best footy at times, but it was never through lack of effort.
Yeah, and well said on that, because obviously now with us fans probably going into this year as a season as a whole, I think we probably don't have as many expectations as was what we've had in the past couple of years. But I think what we've seen with Webby is he's bringing a different sort of attitude to this team. He comes up with no excuses policy. We've had some difficulties over the past couple of weeks. We've had injuries. We've had a few decisions going against us on the field, but we're still going out there and just trying our best. And sometimes it's difficult, but Webby comes up with no excuses, in his press conferences, and that's what I like to hear in a coach. Just we haven't heard that in a coach in a couple of years now. I mean, Nathan Brown wasn't really the coach of the Warriors at the time, and I think Webby's bringing that. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that the key with Webby is his communication style, mate. He's clear and concise and thoughtful in everything he says. You can only control what you can control.
Yeah.
And like you said, I'm trying to think of the specific game it was. Maybe it was a Storm game. That he said they didn't deliver 100% of what they intended to do. So how can they start looking at external factors if they didn't actually control what they could control? And I think that's a great way to look at it. You can't control external factors, mate. And look, every team gets, the rub of the green at certain times with the calls. And very rarely does the refs call actually cost us the game. It seems like it as passionate fans, but often it's us. We haven't taken the refs out of the game. So, but for Webster, again, it's just balanced, practical and concise and understandable and relatable. So everyone wants to follow him.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the important thing about, the coach, especially Webby, and what he brings like for the team, and the approach every week that this team has. Even if we're not getting results, it's about purely putting that effort on the field each week, which I think that's what us fans want to see.
But you also got to remember, mate, it's not just Webby. It was like a perfect storm. No one was even talking about him as an option. It was more about Christian Wolf, and no, we didn't get him. What are we going to end up with now? Everyone's dreaming of having a Wayne Bennett. But I think, he'd been looking at the job for years, and he's got a really strong relationship with Stace and with Justin Morgan and Richard Agar. He'd played with, coached with. They'd all been together. So getting all those guys around him, all of those guys have got head coach experience. Cappy's got head coach experience. So
definitely,
he might be a new player to the game, but he's got those experienced guys. He's come up with a creative way to use them and leverage them. So it's not just him. It's just a really good balance at the moment. And I think that the club CEO and the owner are getting out of his way and letting him do it.
Yeah, and watching your interview with Jazz Savanga, which I thought was a great watch, which I highly recommend for those of you who haven't watched it to go and check it out. And what Jazz Savanga explained was, great, because he pretty much explained what was all going on there at the time, even you, I think you asked some questions regards to last year as well, and he answered them pretty honestly as well. So,
yeah, I think that was a key. Like, I wanted to do it in a way that, and when I hopefully get a few more of these interviews, it's not so much focused on the now. It's about getting to know the guys behind the Warriors, how they, their journey to becoming a Warrior. And I think just through that discussion, we built a bit of a rapport and trust there, and he opened up and covered a few topics that I think surprised people with some real honesty. And I think that was great because fans wanted to know how much that hurt, for the players as well, like seeing other people in the team without the same level of commitment. So
so that's pretty much well said. So why don't we actually get into the game now? Actually, the game on the weekend. So we'll review it and go through it. So we'll start off with the start of the game. So it was a very tight, sort of start. It was very competitive. I thought there we had an opportunity to score some tries early on, and I think it was Rocco Berry who came the closest for us to scoring that try, and he was held up over the line. But the try to the Broncos, I was scoring the first try in the 24th minute of the first half. A 90-meter try there was 6-0. What were your thoughts? What were your thoughts on the start of the game? Because it looked like the boys were, I think it looked like we were flat in terms of our execution and that. And
it's interesting because it was a very different game watching it live and then going back and watching it on TV. They seemed a lot more flat. Watching it live, it seemed like we were losing the collision. So it was really interesting to go back and have a look at the replay, but also look at the stats that we weren't losing it. But I think it was just the fact that we felt like we were making a lot of mistakes, but all it was is the Broncos were able to disrupt those finishes. I think it was like 3 or 4 tries in the first sort of 20 or so minutes that had we converted one of those, it would have been a very different game. So I thought it was relatively even until that that intercept.
Yep.
Feel free to jump in with some of these questions. Everyone here seems to have some really interesting comments, so I can't read them fast enough while I'm talking. If there's anything you want to ask as we go.
Yeah, so just going through these comments. So Jacko is saying whoever plays 6 is going to struggle on attack as Sean Johnson is so dominant. Martin suits Sean Johnson and he is more defensive than attack. Yeah, well, what are your thoughts on that? Because Luke Metcalf, I think it was a tough sort of first game for him. The Broncos, I thought defensively just put a lot of pressure on him. He didn't really have too much impact on the game. But what are your thoughts on that comment there by Jacko in regards to
I think
Martin?
6 is a really interesting one. I think we've sort of seen the X factor things that Metcalf was able to deliver, but he's never played with Sean Johnson, like you say. And I think it's that combination. Webby actually came out and said that it's quite simple that Volkman doesn't match him because he's so similar. Volkman is a good replacement for SJ because he plays such a similar way when you watch him in Cup. Tamati Martin, I had to really look at him after the first couple of rounds because I was expecting like this really massive, clear impact. And it wasn't so obvious the things he was doing. But when I went back and reviewed it, you could see it's his effort areas. He's always the first down on the kick chase. He's always the guy to scramble to cover up the errors. His defense is rock solid. And he's not the guy who's looking to be hands on the ball all the time. Whereas with Metcalf, I think in the first half, we just didn't really have a game plan for it. And I talked a little bit about it that the way we use Tohu a lot for the first receiver, and then it goes to Sean, and then out to Metcalf, they were so fast in their line speed that by the time Metcalf got any ball, there was nowhere to move, nowhere to step. He was just getting smoked. So the biggest hint for me came in the back half of that 10 minutes where we started going directly to SJ as first receiver. And by the time Metcalf got it, he had a bit more time to use his hands. And the other one is where he went really close to the ruck after Bunty's hit up and used his gas. I think we've just got to use him maybe more like a second fullback. But I'd say Tamati Martin walks straight back in when given the chance.
Yep. So just reading some comments in regards to Adam Reynolds, and the Close Stuff's made a good point here. Letting Reynolds just dance around the field all night, giving him that time was a big no-no. Yeah, Adam Reynolds, totally. He's an experienced player, and he just went out there and controlled that game very well.
He's not, mate. As soon as I saw he was playing, I was expecting him to be out with that neck injury. But as soon as you saw he was playing, we knew it was going to be close. And I think, I just did a quick review for my YouTube channel saying that, there's no such thing as a baby Broncos in this game, mate. They had 5 guys out. They had 1 debutant. We have 7 of our first line guys out, and we lost one of an 8th one during the game. And Reynolds, I think, we just didn't have a game plan to shut him down, whereas they did for SJ. If you noticed in the game, it was their centres that were shooting out on SJ because he was playing so wide of the ruck. And they're really quick and disrupting him. Whereas with Reynolds, we're actually quite passive in our defence a lot of the game and just gave him that room to drift. And as soon as he starts that little pop to himself in one hand, he creates that indecision. And the minute someone's feet plant, he's through. And the other difference is they were able to link up with their tackle and line breaks. We weren't. It was always if we offloaded once, the guy who got the ball was tackled. They were able to offload multiple times, So Reynolds, for me, he was outstanding, world class.
Yeah, and Captain Cookie saying it looked like we were in a slow motion on tack at the start of the game. Yeah, I think our completion rate wasn't really good as well to start this game as well. It was like we
ended
were
up
trying
at 70%, right? But it's I think we get we play 2 kinds of games, and I think we kind of it's potentially intentional. The start of the game, like I said, we use Tohu a lot as first receiver. Then he's using that pop pass to other running forwards, or he's then shifting it to our playmakers. And if you go back and watch it, probably 8 times out of 10, our runners were overrunning Tohu, and he was actually having to take the contact himself and end up running over 200 meters as a result. And similar at dummy half, we couldn't get our timing right with our runners there, and that's what was kind of stifling everything. Whereas in the back half of the game, we stopped that sort of, the pass to pass and then getting a runner. It was just more direct, which I think we tend to do in the back quarter of games when the opposition's gassed. But I'd like to see a bit more of that from the beginning.
Yeah, and just a question here from Naz Williams, and as regards to Bunty Afoa, I think she or it's a he, I'm not too sure there, but it's saying does Bunty need a stint in reserve grade? What are your thoughts on that? Because
he's a tough one for me because I've always really liked him. He's the longest serving Warrior, but I don't think we as fans understand the role he's been asked to play. So he makes a lot of tackles. Like he's one of the, he's in the top sort of 15% of tackles made per minute in the NRL. He's not the highest meter earner. And I do have frustrations about his ability to actually break the first tackle, make post-contact meters, but he does do a lot of that defensive work. So until we actually know what he's been expected to do, I don't really think we can judge it. And, you've got guys like Zion Mayu. He's a really high-impact player, but, he's still young and learning it. Mitch Barnett comes in. I think you'll probably see a rotation between Ali and Bunty getting some time down there to rest maybe. But Ali's been struggling a little bit off the bench up until this week. He was better, but the past 2 games, I don't know. But, tough question, that one. I don't think anyone's got the answer.
I'm not too sure on that one too. I've been pretty a little bit critical of Bunty Afoa because of his, just the stats aren't reading too well in that. But I do know that he's not getting a lot of minutes too. He's played just not getting consistent minutes. So
that's what you've got to look at. It's the stats per minute, right? Because you can't compare him directly against others. I mean, Tom Ali makes more meters and more post-contact meters and has a high tackle efficiency, but he doesn't make as many tackles. Just back to Jacko's point there, he was saying that, it was a depleted pack, but if you look at it though, you've got Hetherington, you've got Capewell. They had solid players in there. Ricky he's an international class player. So yes, they were depleted, but so are we. We're missing our starting prop. We're missing our 2 biggest bench impact players. We're missing our top line hooker. I think our pack was much more impacted than theirs. I think, obviously Payne Haas is a big out, but, I think it was a 50-50 there, Jacko. Normally I'd agree, but when I looked at it, how many we'd lost.
Yeah, and I thought, like, going into this game, I thought we had the better forward pack than the Broncos did, but the Broncos forward pack, I think, did all right, actually. Jordan Ricky played pretty well, and I think, there were a lot of people that thought this game was going to be pretty much a straightforward for the Warriors, and that's what I didn't think going into this. I mean, despite those players out. So, yeah, how did you feel about it? Like, did you feel this?
I think their guys stepped up, to be honest, right? They've really missed Payne Haas every time he's been out throughout the season. And a couple of times he was out with man as well. And I think, as I said, you take Reynolds out of that game and his ability to control it, I'd say we win it. You take Ezra Mann out of there, and I still think that we win it. It was the halves who really controlled the game, got the forwards on the front foot. We should have won. We won it. Almost every stat, if you watch the game a second time, it's hard to imagine how we managed to lose it. But it's probably something you'll talk about in a minute. But for me, watching it live, which you didn't see on TV, at about 10 minutes into the second half, the Broncos were gassed. They couldn't get back behind the ball. They hands on knees, and that's when those dickhead pitch invaders came on and just constantly kept giving them like water breaks. Had we not done that, we would have steamrolled them.
Yeah, and just going through some of these comments here, just bear with me here. So you got Naz here saying a couple of close missed tries that we had. Yeah. So yeah, there's quite a few, missed opportunities to score.
I don't know if they're missed. You've just got to give some of those to the Broncos. Their ability to get that hand under the ball or a foot under there, man. That to me is something I had to compliment them on. That is a real skill, to be able to tackle a person and get your hand perfectly under the ball so they can't get it down as much as – I don't think there's much we could have done. I think Dallin's one where he always goes for the corner, but he cut back in and let man get under him. That was frustrating.
Yeah, so, I think the Broncos, they started to – I think they showed their pretty much – I was even throughout, though. I think they started to show their bit of dominance, and then they scored – I think it was 8-0. And then, at halftime, they were leading 12 points to 6. Our first try of the game came through Dunn with Lesniak in the 37th minute, right before halftime. So, what were your thoughts like at halftime? Did you feel like, even though we were behind, did you feel like we're still in the game? Because I think the scoreboard show was.
It just had that feel like we were really, really going to struggle unless something significantly changed.
Yeah.
And it was our ability to defend the errors, mate. Like, we have been very, very good at that. And we just let in some soft tries on the back of errors, which was very, very un-Warriors-like. But I think every game that I've watched, I feel like the Warriors have had the better fitness over our opposition, maybe other than the Panthers in the last 20 minutes. So we were kind of hoping that fitness and the break would get us home and things would click. And I think it would have, again, if we hadn't had those stoppages from the pitch invaders, we would have gassed the Broncos earlier. But, like Webby said, you can't blame anything that you didn't control yourself. They should have executed earlier, and they should have defended their errors better.
Yeah, and I think that's Webby makes a good point on that in the press conference, that we've been a team all year that defends majority of our errors that we make, and we've been pretty resilient. But this time we've just not been able to. So yeah, going into the second half, there was a point where I thought we needed to start well. Obviously, we need to get an early try on the board and not let Brisbane strike first. And they strike first to Ezra Mann there, and they stretched their lead up to 18 points to 6. And then Adam Reynolds kicks a penalty goal to kick clear by 14 points. They're up by 14 points there, and I feared the worst. I feared the worst. Obviously, we've been a team that doesn't get blown away quite often this year. We've not been able to. We've always been able to be competitive throughout the game, and I think, like you said, our fitness has been a bit of a showing this year. Actually, I think our fitness has been pretty good. So, what were your thoughts when that try? When they kicked clear 14 points and had a 14-point lead? Obviously,
I never thought we were going to. I think off the top of my head, we're the only team in the NRL who hasn't conceded 40 this year.
Yeah,
34 is the most we've conceded against the Knights. And I think we've got 20 something. So, we haven't been beaten by more than 20 points by anyone. So I never felt like they were going to completely blast away. We'd seen that opportunities we could create. You had to think we were going to get a few. But I felt a bit deflated. The crowd was kind of flat. It sounded like there was way more atmosphere on TV than there actually was. And it just didn't feel like it was going to be one of those days, to be honest. So even when we started that comeback, I felt deflated. It's like, man, why didn't you do this way earlier? Why are you leaving it to the last minute? But like I said, I'm proud of the fact we didn't let it blow out and maintain that, we're for and against.
Yeah, that is the main thing. Even though like our attack only just came alive in the last 10 minutes, where we started piling some points, and it looked like Brisbane was starting to get a little bit tired. I mean, you can see that. So it was once it got to 20-10, I thought maybe there's a chance. Even though there was still a lot of time left, I thought maybe there's a chance to maybe get back in it. But we scored. I think it was near the end where it looked like we were going to score that try to level up the game and potentially win it like with a minute to go. That try that was denied by the bunker. Obviously, personally, I thought that was a fair call. Adam Pompey did drag that Brisbane Bronco player back, and it was the right call. But that was the most heartbreaking thing when that happened, because if Pompey didn't do that, we probably would have been sitting here and saying a different story in regards to the game.
Yeah, I mean, he scores a try without that, and then look, everyone in their life makes decisions in the split second that you think, man. But the thing is, most of us don't do it in front of hundreds of thousands of people on TV. He won't do that again. But like I said, you can't blame that loss on that one instant. 17 guys, or 16, because we'd never put us in that position to need to do it. We definitely need to win this weekend, boys. Yeah, I agree with that.
We definitely do, for sure. But the final score was 26 points to 22. So the scoreline looked a lot closer than it probably will not have looked like. Unless the Warriors scored some late tries.
But again, it's like if you look at the actual game, other than the execution of the tries, it was very, very even.
Yeah.
They just managed to convert their opportunities, and we didn't. So it didn't seem like a really unbalanced game where someone's running over the top of the other team.
No, it didn't actually. It was pretty even contest, and even Kevy in the press conference commented how it could have gone either way that game, despite.
Oh, mate, yeah. I don't think anyone even the Broncos fans wouldn't have denied that it was probably a fair outcome in the end.
Yeah, so that 26 points to 22 was the final score, and tries. Warriors scored 4 tries. Broncos scored 4 tries. So we basically both scored the same amount of tries there. Try to Dallin Watini-Zelezniak. He scored 2 tries. Marcelo Montoya with 1. And Broncos had Dean Mariner. He scored 2 tries. And Jordan Ricky and Ezra Mann. Quickly on Jordan Ricky, that try, what were your thoughts on it? Because I think it was forward.
Oh, mate, I think both his and the pass to Mann was, but that's the NRL footy, mate. It's just a bit of an enigma that the bunker can't go back and call on a forward pass. And I didn't notice that one live. I noticed the Man one seemed far forward because I was right in line with it live, but I didn't notice the Ricky one until the replay. But shit, what are you going to do? We had a lot of forward passes going all day, mate, from dummy half that weren't picked up.
Yeah, exactly right. So the next thing here is standout players. So overall, if you look at the game as a whole, who are your standout players for us and probably for the opposition, the Broncos? Who are your standout players in general?
I'll start with them, mate. That way we can move on to the good stuff. So obviously Reynolds and Man in the halves. I thought both centres were really good for them. Katoni Staggs had a really, really solid game, actually. And I thought that Mariner and Sailor, for relatively inexperienced guys and one on debut there, they definitely showed their, I don't think we managed to exploit them. And I thought Walters had a pretty good game at getting their 4-pack move, and Tapau actually off the bench. So there weren't anyone really in the Broncos who had a bad game. For us, the first one that stood out to me is Rocco Berry. Like, we've spoken a bit about this on Facebook. I'm a big fan of his, and I was right from the first time I saw him that people laugh at me when I say this, but there's a lot of him that reminds me of a very young, raw Conrad Smith. Similar physique, similar attributes. He doesn't look like he's physically intimidating, but he's got a great tackle technique. He's very calm under pressure. He's able to defend his mistakes. When you saw Herbie burned him twice on the outside, he just turned around and legs tackled him. So I think he's got a great ability. He straightened up the attack a couple of times there to give his man the space outside. So for me, I was really happy to see him step up. Dallin has really lifted his intensity, and his post-contact meters have been outstanding. So he was great. Chance before he went off. AFB, he's been awesome. But, Tohu, he did a man load of work, but I just felt like his sync wasn't quite right there. But again, who had a really bad game? It's hard to sort of judge, Sean was a bit quiet, which was a bit disappointing, but yeah.
Yeah, just reading this comment here. So you got Hold the Ball. Hey, how's it going, Hold the Ball? Good to see you, bro. He's saying, brothers, good work having Warrior Holic on board for next. So have you, he's saying he'd like to have you on your show soon.
Yeah, mate, I'd love to, bro.
Yep, and he says, love your work. So good. Up the wires, and I'm nervous against the Finns this week. Yeah,
with good reason, bro. I'm sure we'll get onto that in a minute.
Yeah, and I agree with you on Rocco Berry as well, because a lot of fans have different views on Rocco Berry. And
what did Jacko say about them? I couldn't quite catch that. I see Hold the Balls agreeing with us.
Yeah. I think as regards to Berry, he said, I know Berry's old man from back in the day.
Oh, yeah,
Tough as nails. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was saying he played like him. Yeah, so Marty Berry was he's from the Wairoa Upper, but he played for Upper Hutt, who I played for back in the day, and one game All Black. He was a massive man. For me, I think if Williami comes back healthy, he comes in and plays with Berry. For both guys are so much more solid and reliable. On their defense, they've got similar attributes. Both of them are really quick. And I think Pompey, while he's been really good on attack, he gets a little bit lazy on defense. I saw him in the background when they got that the runaway. He just stopped chasing. So for me, I'd agree. Berry's my number one centre, and I'd love to see him with RTS next year. Viliami's been a real disappointment for me this year. I thought he'd be my breakout player of the season, but by all accounts, he's got attitude issues. He's not putting in the extras, and I think that's a real minus in Webby's mind. So I don't know if we'll see too much more of him unless we have injuries. So I'm looking to see Williami come back in this weekend and match up with Rocco. That makes us a lot more solid.
Yep. So my standout players, will just give mine. So CNK, I thought was quite good, actually. I thought he played well at fullback there. And AFB, I think probably for me right now, I think he's putting himself in the conversation for the top four forward in the game right now. I think, in my personal opinion, I think he's putting his hand up for it.
A lot of guys say, that was the thing we were denied setting up against Payne Haas, mate. A lot of guys are talking, in the media are talking about him and Payne Haas being the two best props. So I agree.
Yeah, and I thought Dallin with Tins Lesniak, DWZ, probably one of his best games this year. I think, especially with the way he played, I think he was great. He could have scored a couple more tries as well. So obviously, he'd be disappointed that he didn't score another try or two. But
he could have had 4, mate, the way he played.
He could have had 4 tries. So he scored 2, but he could have had a couple more as well. So I thought he was great. And Berry as well, like I said, I think he was good as well. So those were my standout players. But
I tell you what, another quick comment is I thought Ford and Niakorte played a little bit of a different game in the weekend. I kind of feel like they haven't been involved enough. They don't take as many hit-ups as I like, and I think we've kind of used them a lot on as tacklers. But both of those guys got really actively involved, and that speed Ford showed to almost run down what's his name, Manor. Another 15 yards, I reckon he gets him.
Yeah, yeah, and just reading this comment here from the close staff, he's just saying here, regards to Barry, I just hope Barry stays fit and healthy. So there's a lot of upside to that kid. Yeah, exactly, and that's I put up a post on Facebook and on Instagram. I shared out a tweet saying that I think Rocco Berry needs a bit more time to develop. I think he's still quite young, and some people just they're quite high and critical when a player doesn't perform very well. And I think
what they don't realise, mate, is he played his first year of rugby league in NRL, right?
Exactly.
So he never got to develop, even while during COVID he was playing with Redcliffe, but that's not in our system. So considering a guy's only played, the amount of time he has in the game, I think he's just shown, and under Webby, he'll grow, but I think he's more than capable now of just staying in first grade and developing himself there.
Yep, and I'm just reading this comment there from Rabbit. He's saying, yeah, back that up, and our backs run it hardest back to the line in the whole comp.
They'll be up there with Penrith, mate, and I think that's probably where he's got, I think genuinely believe the biggest reason we're so competitive in the back 20 is we're one of the few teams that do use our backs to take the dirty hit-ups off our line and take a lot of pressure and a lot of energy, or wasted energy off AFB in the middle forwards by taking those hard runs. And particularly the if we can get them like one after the other with really quick plays of the ball, the meters we're making is outstanding. So got to agree with that, my man.
Yeah, and just take one more comment before moving on here. So the club staff is saying here, I'm really concerned about Jackson Ford. The errors and penalties he's conceded of late has been a letdown for us. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, mate. Me and Wells Up had this conversation the other night, actually, in the review of the first half of the season there. Like, I had a man crush on Ford when he first came. Like, who expected him to be anything? What a signing. But the silly, the penalties for me, like the error, like that was a strip in the weekend there. That wasn't a lost ball, but the penalties he gives away through fatigue are just annoying, man. Niakore's not far behind him. So I totally agree. That's something he's definitely got to sort out.
Yep, yeah. And now I just want to have a look also is the game stats. So stats from the game. So generally like to have a look at stats. So the interesting thing is possession-wise. So Warriors had 48% of the ball and the Broncos had 52%. So completion rates, Warriors 70% in the end there, despite it looking not great at the start, but end up being 70%. Broncos 80%, all runs, Warriors 190. The Broncos 190 post-contact meters, so 739. Warriors had more than the Broncos.
Way more, 200
Broncos
more
was
meters.
600. Yeah, Broncos was 633. Interesting, all running meters. Warriors 2,123 meters. The Broncos 1,941. And line breaks, Warriors 5, Broncos 4. And tackle breaks, Warriors 46, Broncos 32. Offloads, Warriors 10, Broncos 7. Tackles made, Warriors 344, Broncos 325. Missed tackles, Warriors 32, Broncos 46. So what are your thoughts on those general stats there?
I think there's another one that kind of was pretty interesting. We had 4 guys who ran over 200 meters and another 5 who ran over 100. And I thought that was pretty good until I looked at the Broncos. I think they had 11 or 12 of their guys ran over 100 meters. No one got over 200 though. So there were a lot of meters covered in that game. And for me, I think it's just seeing guys like Bunty was up about 114 meters this time. He's not often over 100. And both Niakore and Ford, I think, were over 100. And they're both normally around 80. So, again, those stats just reinforce we shouldn't have lost that. The missed tackles, the thing that we made more line breaks and more tackle breaks, but we didn't convert on them as well.
Yeah, exactly right. But now to the man of the match. So 3-2-1, best on ground. So in your opinion, who was your 3, your 2, and your 1 for this game?
It's always hard because certain players stand out and we don't always see the things that certain players do. But for me, I'd have to give 3 to Dallin. I think he's proven he's probably even better at fullback than he is on the wing. which is great to have that cover. I was a bit sus having him as our backup for Chance, but he's so solid at the back, and I think his defense is actually better when he's at fullback. So he gets 3. I thought Lussick was playing really, really well. Other than this, a couple of issues with the time in the past, but I put that on the runners more than him. Before he had to go off, he probably would have got my 2 if he'd stayed on, but out of him or Chance. And Berry, I think, gets 1 point for me just purely on the fact that he met my expectations and exceeded, and I think he's quietened down a couple of critics.
Yep. Yeah, for me, I'll probably say I'll go 3, I'll go Berry. 2, I'll go Dullen. And number 1, I'm actually going to go with Adam Fanua-Blake. And I know I've been putting him in my man of match every week because he just keeps putting that standing.
I think I might have got those the other way around. Like, so 3, it's not 3 points. It's like 3. 1 is the best guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So swap me around there. Yeah. Sorry, mate. But yeah, can't argue with those.
Yeah. So that's my 3-2-1. And I want to give a shout out to CNK as well. CNK will have to be up there as well, even though I didn't have him in my
200
3-2-1.
What 220 meters and he was off for 15 minutes. That's insane.
Yeah, exactly. It's incredible. But yeah, just go for a comment here. So Jacko saying he should have won, but in years gone by, basic errors at critical times are unacceptable and must be corrected. So yeah, what are your thoughts there?
Hey, Jacko, look, I heard a really interesting interview with Graham Lowe. With Martin Devlin on the platform a couple of months, maybe 6 weeks back, right? When we were all starting to get pretty excited. And he basically said that the Warriors' effort is up there with anyone in the comp. He said their fitness is up there with anyone in the comp. He said the biggest difference between us and a genuine top 4 team is they are precise in everything they do. We're still a little bit up and down. And it's that execution. You don't see those consistent, silly little handling errors from the top 4, the genuine top 4 teams. If it happens 1 week, it doesn't happen again for another 8 weeks. Whereas we're seeing it, every week, a little, those little small samples, and the errors are in the wrong position. Ford, how many times has he given away a penalty on the 4th or 5th tackle when we've got them locked on their own 30, only to get them to kick it down and well into our half, right? Yeah, I agree, Jacko, with CNK, mate. He can ball play, just needs to do it more.
Yep. Yeah, well said there. So the next part of the stream is to give a bit of a rating on the players individually. So give a bit of a rating out of 10 and give our opinion on them. So fullback was CNK, Chance Nickel-Klokstad. What were your thoughts on CNK's performance, and what rating would you give him out of 10?
I'd struggle to give him less than 9, mate.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything that he's had a couple of occasions over the past sort of 6 or so rounds. He's got so fatigued that he's got caught behind the play of the ball, and we've got maybe 3 or 4 guys caught in the ruck, and he's not fast enough to react, and he's caused in some cases those overlaps, which I got frustrated with. But I didn't see any of that in the weekend. I thought he was outstanding.
Yep. Well said there. So for me, CNK, I'll probably give him I'll actually give him an 8 out of 10. Yeah, I thought CNK was quite good, even though he came off a couple of minutes as well, but he came back on and he still put on a great shift there. So he gets an 8 from me for CNK. So winger Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, I thought DWZ was great, actually. I thought this was probably one of his best performances in a Warriors jersey this year. What do you think? What were your thoughts on DWZ, and what rating would you give him?
Yeah, I mean, his overall play, if you just looked at that, you go close to giving 9.5. He was outstanding. But the fact he made some slight miscalculations in his execution in those tries, I've got to give him an 8.5, mate.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. I'll probably give it an 8.5 as well. So Rocco Berry. Now, Rocco Berry, like I said there, I was pretty high around Rocco Berry at the start of the stream. Praising him quite a lot. So Rocco Berry, what do you reckon?
It's tough, mate. I mean, you can't. If I compare him against expectation of his own ability, I'm giving him a 9. I'm sure people are really, smarter than me when it comes to centre play. Will find things they could pick apart, but I'll give him a 9.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree. Actually, I'm going to be I'll give him a 9 as well. Yeah, 9 for me. I thought it was good. Adam Pompey. I think it was a bit mixed. I'm not going to purely blame the result.
I was an Adam Pompey hater back in the day. Well, not hater per se of the guy. I just felt like he was never going to reach genuine NRL potential. But I think he's shown a lot of progression throughout the season in every game he played. But he just, those little times when he was lazy in defense cost us. So, mate, I'm going to give him a 6.5 this week.
Yeah, I'll give him a 6 out of 10 for me for Adam Pompey there. Marcelo Montoya. Now, what were your thoughts there?
Montoya just doesn't seem to be making the same post contact meters he was, even though he's well up over 100 there, and he's not having the same impact. But that said, I don't think it's through lack of effort, and he may be suffering from being outside Pompey. But 7 didn't do too much wrong. He missed a couple of tackles, but the effort's definitely there.
So what did you say? What did you give him again?
I said 7, mate.
7? All right. So
I think I said 7. I hope I don't.
I'll go. I'll go around that range here. 7 for me. Luke Metcalf, first game in the Warriors colours. What were your thoughts on Luke Metcalf? Because
mate, I think we've got to be realistic. That it's his first game for us. It's probably his 4th game of NRL. We see the flashes of brilliance, and we have like these dreams of him being the second coming of SJ in his youth. I think you can't question his effort. I think you could see out on the field from where I was sitting, he was clearly frustrated with the decision making around him. He had a couple of goes at Adam Pompey and the like. I think he, just a couple of those in the last part of the game there where he got a chance to show his speed. So I'm going to give him a solid 7 on potential. I think we expected more, but I think, for a guy with his limited game time this year, he did all right.
Yeah, I'm going to give him a 6.5. Yeah, I thought he was, solid. I think, 6.5 out of 10. It's only his first game, and I don't think we can, expect too much, going into
combinations are vital, mate. And how much time has he spent with any of those players? So, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure we'll see plenty of more of them over the next couple of weeks, for sure. I think he'll probably still start this week. I don't think
isn't Tamati Martin's due back this week? I think I'm sure he was round 14. Yeah, I think he comes straight back in. So I'm not sure what we might just get a bit more game time in Cup, I reckon.
Yeah, if that's the case, then obviously tomorrow morning coming back in to the starting lineup there. Shaun Johnson, I think this was one of the quietest games that Shaun's had. What do you think? Yeah, because obviously he's been consistent for majority of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that the Broncos, like I said, normally you'll get guys chasing him from dummy half, like when he's kicking, and it's usually a middle forward, but they chased him from the outside in with their really quick centres. So he struggled to adjust to that. I think we struggled to adjust our game plan to get him the ball earlier. One of the things I kind of noted when I was watching live that occurred to me is when things were going a bit haywire, and we actually got a kick, and we needed to get things, maintain it. Shaun Johnson kicking takes a little bit away from us. He would be the guy in the huddle, racking the guys up on what needs to come next. And he's not able to do that kicking the goals when we need to maintain the momentum. But I thought he was okay, mate. I'd say his quietest game, so I'll give him. I mean, he didn't do a lot wrong. He just didn't handle the pressure put on him. So I don't know, mate. 7.
Yeah, I think probably around the 7-ish mark. I think obviously Brisbane did pretty well. They didn't really give him a lot of time. So, I'll give him a 7 there. Adam Fanua-Blake. Adam Fanua-Blake is, running out superlatives. He's been outstanding for the whole season. Probably our best player on, ground every week. And I think he's really put himself in contention to win the Warriors Player of the Year, the Simon Mannering medalist at the end of the season. What are your thoughts there on Adam Fanua-Blake and his performance against the
Have a look at
Broncos.
this. He ran for 264 meters, man.
Jeez.
111 post-contact meters, mate. What more could you have asked him? I'd love to give him a 10.
Yep.
On the losing side, what more could he have done? Like at the minutes he played for a guy his size, I couldn't ask for any more from the guy.
Yeah, I think Adam Fanua gets a 9. 9 out of 10. I originally had him as an 8, but I sort of thought about it a bit longer. I thought, no, I'll give him a 9. Fanua was outstanding. Yeah, it was outstanding there. Freddie Lussick was the hooker. Freddie Lussick, what were your thoughts on him? Obviously, he had to come off with an HIA in that second half. I think it was around about the 46th minute in that second half. What were your thoughts on, although he didn't play a lot in that second half, what were your thoughts on Freddie Lussick?
I'm just having a quick look here. He made 30 tackles, and he was only on the field for 47 minutes. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And you could just see the impact he was pulling off. For a guy his size, I think we saw that in the end of last year when he came in, his ability to smash guys. But then he got kind of dominated against the Tigers, and a few people were starting to think he's a bit of a soft link. But I thought he played really, really well. And, a massive loss, and one of probably the reasons we lost. So if I just mark him on his time on the field, I'd give him an 8.5, mate.
Yeah, I'll give him a 7. Yeah, I'll give him a 7, actually. Yeah, 7 for me. And obviously, you had Bailey Sironen coming on and playing that role throughout the rest of the second half. So, yeah, look, I thought, Freddie Lussick, I think he's a player that, a lot of, maybe myself included, probably aren't too high on, but I think he gets the work job done. I think he's one of those solid players. Defensively as well.
I think you're going to find, again, he's very, very young, and hookers are guys that take time to grow into their position. And he's probably shown more potential than Egan showed in his first couple of seasons. And I was right up there with the people being critical of him. And look what happened this season once he got a decent four pack around him. So I think he's definitely an admirable replacement for me. I mean, would he be my first choice out of all the hookers available in the comp? No, but I think he's definitely stood up.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm happy to be proven wrong with Lussick, actually, if he continues on and plays very well. So, which is good to see there. So, prop was Bunty Afoa.
I can't fault Bunty's. He tries hard, 37 minutes, and he ran for 100 meters, but his post-contact meters are pretty low. But I'm going to have a quick look at this and see how many tackles he made, because I have a feeling there would have been a lot. I'll take up the time. Yeah, 7, 6.5, 7. I think he's a genuine good impact player off the bench, but he's struggling as a starter.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to give him a higher rating, but probably give him a 6. Yeah, 6 at the moment. I love to see a bit more from Bunty, but obviously his minutes are not, sort of helping in a way, because he's not, just not enough consistent game time. But yeah, I'll probably give him a 6 there. Jackson
26
Ford,
tackles at 100% tackle efficiency, though, mate.
Yeah.
So that's not bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah,
Jackson Ford, 37 tackles from him at 82%. If he could eliminate the errors, I'd give him. There's not much I could have criticised him on the weekend. He put a lot of work in. That effort to run down or try to run down Manor. I'm going to give him an extra point just for that, because he was the only man who tried to do that. 7.5. I just can't give him more than that because of the errors he tends to give away.
Yeah, I was 6.5. Yeah, 6.5. I think, obviously, the thing that does annoy me a bit is this errors and, some penalties that he gives away in his game, which hopefully he can fix that up. But, he does some good stuff in his game as well. There's not just the bad stuff. You can see some signs there. But
yeah, I mean, it's probably the time I'll mention this, otherwise I'll probably forget. But I'm not an overly big fan of the way we're using both of the edge back rowers. I think they've just been used as workhorses and kind of, I feel like if you could add a Viliami kicker or one of those big dynamic ball playing, edge back rows on one side, and then you've got the workhorse on the other. I think that brings a new dimension to us. And we'll get on to the next near quarter. That I expected him to be playing a bit more ball as well, but we're just. I feel it's a little bit of a lack of impact just using them as grinding out workhorses, tackling machines. So yeah.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Murata Niokore next. What were your thoughts on how he went?
I think he had a bigger work rate than he has for a lot of the games. 128 meters is by far more than he was getting. Like in the earlier parts of the season, like I said, he was around the 80 mark, so that's 50 odd more meters. And he does a lot of work. He was in the middle a lot more than he usually is. So 7.5, similar to Ford without the penalties, I think, from him this week.
Yeah, I think Murata Niokore I think he did a little bit better in this game. So I'll probably say I'll go 7. Yeah, I'll go 7. 7 out of 10 for me. Then lock. So we got Harris here, Tohu Harris, the skipper himself, the captain. What were your thoughts here on Harris?
I mean, I shook the guy's hand and talked to him for a few minutes there in Napier.
Yeah.
And he's a metre 96 tall, right? I'm a metre 71. So he's like, he's like a giant, but he's so softly spoken. He's got the softest hand you've ever shaken in your life. He's got a soft handshake. He just, I can't understand how he turns into this beast on the field. Like I said, I think he struggled to get his timing right with his runners. I'm not overly blaming him. It was probably Bunty was worse. But to play 80 minutes again and get through the work he did, 9. You can't be critical of a guy that does that much. 212 meters, crazy.
Yeah, I'll probably say 9 as well. You can't really fault Harris and what he does, every week in regards to this team. So, yeah, definitely a 9 for me. Just on the bench here quickly, so we've got Bailey Sirenen. What we thought there?
Mate, I'm not a huge. I like the guy. He seems like a great guy, but I'm not a huge fan of him off the bench because while he has a lot of versatility, I think he lacks genuine impact. That said, I thought he had his best game at dummy half. His pass was so much better than it has been. And the width and speed and accuracy of his pass in that last 10 minutes when we started to go directly to SJ 2-3, wide of the ruck, outstanding. He makes a few errors in defense as well at times, but 95% tackle efficiency in the weekend, 21 tackles. So he exceeded my expectations this week, so I'm going to give him an 8.
All right, interesting. Yeah, look, I think he's obviously I'm not too big of a fan of him personally. But look, I mean, I think he did an all right job. Coming off the bench and playing that role that probably isn't his customary role anyway. Playing a bit of hooker there. So yeah, look, I think he was all right. I'll give him a 7 there. 7 for me.
Just quietly on him, talking to one of the guys from the St. George creators. The word on the street is he's off there. So he's not going to be re-signed. He's going to St. George, they reckon.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I mean, I can't see why you keep him, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we've got a lot of forwards, and it's just where he fits in the picture next year. That's a big thing. So yeah, that'll be interesting there. So yeah, so Naz is agreed on Lussick. I'd have him at 1 at 9. Crazy as it sounds, he's not far off anyway. So interesting comment there from Naz Williams. What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've clearly seen that Egan's struggling with the head knocks and so forth, so they're trying to use that 1-2 punch with the 2 hookers and getting Lussick to take the initial confrontation. And I think it works. Lussick's, Egan's a great defender in that he drops the guys, but Lussick hits them and puts them on their ass. So, like I said, he's exceeded what I had high expectations when he first came. I thought he was great. Then they sort of dropped off a bit with his passing that game against, I think it was the Cowboys when it's really windy in Auckland. But no, he's definitely he's exceeded my expectations. I wasn't expecting as much as I've seen from him.
Yep. Okay. So Josh Curran, What were your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, I was expecting him a lot from him, and I know he wouldn't have liked being dropped to the bench, but we needed that high energy player to come on and sort of take that role that Walker's obviously out and wasn't able to do. He came on, you could see him running around and running fast, but I don't really recall a huge amount of what he did. 33 tackles in his time there. How many meters did he get? 7.
Yeah. Yeah, I just based it on the fact that I didn't see a lot, much of what he did on the field. Obviously coming off the bench, but I'll probably give him a 6. Yeah, a 6 for me.
You see, I'm kind with my my numbering, mate, and it's often from the heart rather than the brain.
Yeah, Dimitri Safakula, what were your thoughts on him?
I think he's struggling to make the transition. Watching him in that cup game a couple of weeks ago when he went back, he's definitely kind of got a bigger presence there now. But I still feel like he's just one of those guys who's lacking that genuine belief. I don't know. You saw his surprise and how humble he was when he was announced the first time. I think it's just having the confidence to impose himself. And that little bit of hesitation or the little bit of nerves is still coming through there. But, he struggled to impose himself on that game. And I think in a light bench, we probably needed a bit more. So, mate, I'll be kind and give him a 6.5.
Yeah, I'll give him a 6. And then the last player on the bench is Tom Harley. What were your thoughts on him?
Jack, I agree, mate, with Siren. Yeah, he did have his best game in a long time. Tom Harley, like I said, current stopper player. See, I don't know about 80 minutes for Curran because he does so much, he gets fatigued as well. And he's similar to Chance. When I really sat down and started looking at where those overlaps were coming after the Sharks game and a couple of other games after that, I noticed that Curran just gets a little bit tired and struggles to get back in the line when we're right in vital areas defending our own line, and he gets flat-footed and causes that overlap. So I don't think he's an 80-minute player, but I like the energy he brings, and given the areas that we're seeing from forward, it may be an option worth thinking. But I think Webby's a huge fan of Ford. He just constantly talks him up. So I don't think he's going to come in and replace Ford. So it's more of an injury thing for him. But in my best bench, I love having Jazz, Walker, and Curran there, just so the energy those three guys bring. So, back to Tom Harley. I felt he'd gone a little bit flat during that 3-game period leading into the bye. Young guy, first full year at first grade. I think the fatigue was starting to get on top of him, but 123 meters, 45 post-contact meters, I think he had a much bigger impact on the weekend than he's had for a while. So I'm going to give him a 7.5 because I felt like he probably had the biggest impact of the bench players, as in genuine impact on the game. I think Suriname played solid, but it was just like a replacement. I didn't feel like he turned the game anything anyway.
Yep, that's understandable. I'll actually give Tom Harley a 6. Yeah, I'll give him a 6. It's just a 6 out of 10 for me. Yeah.
You're a tough taskmaster, mate. I'm too nice.
Yep. Yeah. So anyway, anything you'd like to just add on in regards to that game before I
I mean, it's like I said, it's disappointing, but I think it's a chance for the team and the fans to reset, and maybe Warriors of fans are very emotional. Yet we're quick to jump on any little sign of hope. I've just got to get myself to realize we're 7 of our top 17 are out, and the 7 of the best of our 7 of the top 10 players in the team are out at the moment.
Yep,
we've got to temporary expectations, and I just hope at some point we get them all back on the field at some point. So, given how many players we had out there. You look at the Storm and the Panthers both lost off the back of the bye. Some teams just struggle with that. It's something they'll have to work on for the next one because we've got one in another couple of weeks. But it wasn't as bad as I thought it was live. I was pretty depressed after that game. But when I went and watched back, it just wasn't as bad.
Yeah. So just go through these comments here quickly before I ask you some questions, and then we'll end it. So, Jacko's saying here, RLA's developing well, has a bit of footwork too, but his drop pass era was dreadful. And he's also saying here that Warriors fans get carried away very easily and always have annoys me, but it is what it is. So yeah,
Hey mate, Jacko, you're a very, very smart man, and I really appreciate the in-depth comments you give. And I think you understand the game better than 99% of the fans out there. And doing what I'm doing now has really made me try to understand it the depth you do. But fans can only see the things that really stand out to them on the field, and which is why it's the flashy players who always get the fans' attention. And I wouldn't I just look at, I'd rather have fans that get, way too excited early than having no fans. So that's one thing the Warriors, we do have a very passionate fan base. And I wish you were a bit more keen or had the technology to jump online, because I'd love to get you on for a yarn sometime, Jacko. You're a very smart man.
Yeah, well said there. So I want to ask you some questions in regards to this week. Now, this week, would you, if you're looking at the team from that Broncos game, what would you make any changes to the team this week against Dolphins? Because we know Mitchell Barnett is available this week, and Wade Egan is available. So would you make any changes?
I bring Barnett, I'll bring Egan in, I would bring Tamari Martin in if he's available, and William if he got through his cup game okay. We need that experience, we need the fresh legs, we need that aggression, because the Dolphins have a very solid pack, and we're lacking that, particularly with Jazz out of there at the moment. There's no one there to back AFB up, so I'd bring all four of them in if they're available.
Yeah, and in regards to Adam Pompey, would you keep him in the side this week? Because I've seen a lot.
If Williami's available, he can't. Pompey drops out for me. I wouldn't drop him for Viola. I don't think Viola is consistent. He's got more X factor. He's got more speed, but I think he's just struggling. Like I said, with those attitudinal things. But if Williami's available, he comes in for Pompey for me.
Yeah, and also. Dylan Walker, do you think that in that game, especially against the Broncos, do you think Dylan Walker was that big of a loss? Because obviously, you look at the bench, you could tell that he was quite a big loss.
He's an energy maker. You've got guys who just make environments, and him and Jazz, they just, they're good guys. The leadership he shows, you can see that the fact that he's, step-in captain whenever Tohu's off. Mate, we missed him hugely, and broken toes can be niggly, so a bit worried about how long it might take to get him back. What did Jacko say?
Yeah, just read this comment here. Yeah. He's saying,
mate,
no, I'm not this.
Mate, using the rugby league chat GPT or something, mate, you're pretty bloody knowledgeable, I have to say. So West Coast in you, man?
Yeah, it's just goes for Jackie's got some very good comments tonight. So yeah, Jackie's saying you're walking Jazz off the bench makes a huge difference. We need one of them on, which is a shame, because I think when I was watching that interview with Jazz, he was very gutted, with the injury, just being out for quite some time.
I think he's really struggling, because, as he said, he's never really had the injuries, and with what he had going on over the end of last season, in the off season, and then now, and he's still 6 weeks away, man. You imagine that guy's just sitting there having to watch this. But like I said to him, and now I was trying to give him some positive to think about. He comes back fully fit in the last quarter of the year. He's going to be going up against guys who are broken and fatigued. I think he'll do a lot of damage, and that's probably like some of our key guys. If we get them back and we're still in contention and we keep them on the field, most of the top 8 teams have been really lucky with their injuries. None of them have had as many as we've got. I don't think. The Broncos have had some. Not the Broncos. The Dolphins have had some big ones, and their halves particularly. But their forwards have been pretty solid. I think it's probably the Bulldogs who have seen similar sort of levels as us. So.
Yeah, and on that game coming up against the Dolphins this week on think it's a Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening.
Yeah, I think it is a Saturday afternoon game. Yeah.
Yeah, at Go Media Stadium, as it's now known as. What are your feelings going into this week's game against the Dolphins? Do you think it's a game we really must win now because we
Well,
came off that loss?
we have to win it, but it'll be one of the
Yeah.
toughest games we'll play in a long time. Because they're other than that, maybe they've had 2 blowouts, but they've been I believe that us and the Dolphins have been the most consistent in their form over the season. I think our highs and lows haven't been as high as other teams. They had that. Who was it that spanked them? Was it Souths? Someone put like 40 points on them, but other than that, they've been really consistent. So I think it'll probably be one of our toughest games this season. And if we don't switch on and we don't get a couple of those guys back, mate, I wouldn't put money on it. There's no way I'm putting money on I want the Warriors to win, but geez, I wouldn't put money on it.
Yeah, and I think this game as well, we can't take the Dolphins lightly because if you look at the Dolphins this year, they've surprised a lot of expectations. I think, a lot of people didn't have them where they were right now. They're sitting in 6th spot. They could be a top 4 side.
But that's people who are looking at, looking at the stars. Yeah. But I would say my turnaround player of the season would be Jermaine Osaka. I think he's probably the best wing in the comp this year. So Wayne's, he's definitely a people whisperer. So he'll have them up for this. They won't be intimidated by the road trip, but it'll be a sold-out crowd. I hope the weather's complete shit for them. Coming from Brisbane. I hope it's like -4 degree wind chill factor. Yep. But yeah, tough game. But I think if we play to our potential, there's no reason we can't win.
Yeah, exactly. And as is commenting here that Saka is on fire. He's having a very good season. Then you got the Hammer as well. He's now playing in the Origin. So
did they come back this weekend, the Origin players?
From my memory, I think they can back up. It depends if they if those sides want their players backing up after Origin. I think majority probably will want to back up, but.
Yeah, you'd think a Hammer being at centre, there's a pretty good chance he'll be back, which is not ideal. Yeah. But yeah, Cody Nikarima surprised me on the weekend. Man, I almost changed my tip when I saw he was coming in at fullback there. But he held his own, so.
Yeah, actually, just a comment here from Jacko. He's saying that Dolphins might be missing the Hammer and Gilbert. Surely they won't be travelling from Adelaide. Yeah, they are. They're in Adelaide. You've got to remember that too. So.
Who knows, mate? It astonishes me that any club would want to play their guys, a couple of days after that. When you look at, particularly where the Dolphins are, I think the back end of the season is more important, and I think that's one of the mistakes the Broncos paid, or one of the things that hit them last year was their young players backing up after Origin. They were gassed. Payne Haas did too much in the front half of the season, played too many big minutes, had a massive Origin, and then. Bringing them back too quickly. So I think, if you're smart, you don't rush them back. And actually getting them to New Zealand, you're right, is a bit of a mission. So hopefully he doesn't play.
Yep. Yeah. So anyway, look, I think it's, it's been a great chat and it's awesome to have you on. But I just want to give a quick prediction before we get on out of here. Thoughts on State of Origin. Who you barracking for? Who you cheering for? And who do you think's going to win?
Always been a Blues fan because of the Tigers back in the day when we had, the Gary Jacks and the blocker and all them in there. I would have been 50-50 until today. Latrell out, mate. Yeah. If I'm putting money in, I'm putting on Queensland. And I can only do that because I'm not a real New South Welshman. But yeah, I think that the Blues will struggle without him there. He makes such a big difference. Who knows what happens with Travojevic? And if you lose game 1, then you get a Suncorp, it's all over.
Yep.
So I'm saying a last-minute try set up by either Munster or DCE to take a 2 or 3 point win to the Queenslanders this week.
Yep. So I did my preview video today. So if anyone wants to see my prediction there, go and give that one a watch. So I won't give away my prediction. So yeah, go and check that out. I did a Queensland New South Wales preview on the channel. So yeah, go and give that. Obviously, people should know who I'm going for. I'm going for the Maroons. Being a Kiwi, not born in Queensland, live in Queensland, up here on the Gold Coast. So, obviously, I'm cheering for Queensland. So, Maroons supporter all the way for me. So, yeah, obviously, I'm going for the Queensland Maroons. So, yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting game. Yeah.
Hey, just before we jump off, mate, I want to congratulate you on the amount of you put in here as well, like on the various platforms. And I know you've had a bit of shit over the years from from people that you don't deserve, and I have a lot of respect for the fact that you've stuck it out. You've got a lot of people who support you through that. So well done. I know you put a lot of energy in it. So I'm glad people continue to support you, and it's nice to finally have the chance. So thanks for having us on, my man.
Yeah, no worries. I appreciate the kind words, and I think everyone should be supportive. Of the community we have. A lot of content creators out there who do a great job. A lot of Warriors fans as well who jumped on doing podcasts and that. So yeah, they all do a good job, and we should all support everyone one another. Just having people.
Everyone's got their own style, and I think the fans will naturally gravitate to to a certain style. Like I don't expect everyone to like me, but I'm glad some people do. And you've got your own unique style, so keep it up, my man. We love the energy.
No worries. So yeah, I think that's it now. So I'd like to thank everyone. Thank you everyone for tuning in and watching live tonight. And for those of you watching it back, make sure you do like the video. Make sure you click the thumbs up on the video. And if you are a new viewer to the channel and you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to this channel and go and check out the Warrior Holic as well on YouTube. He's on Instagram, Twitter, all those platforms, and go subscribe to him as well because he does.
Thanks, mate.
A lot of great work, and I highly recommend you go and check out what he does as well. So, yeah, really do appreciate the Waraholic for giving up his time and for coming on the channel tonight. And I think it's been a great stream, and I've really enjoyed it. So, thanks to the Waraholic.
Thanks for all the comments as well, guys. That was really good. It's good to kind of have a chance to chat with everyone. It's nice to see them in the comments on a YouTube video, but having a chance to chat live has been great. So, thanks, my man. See you next time.
Yep, no worries. So thanks everyone for watching. Like I said there, make sure you like the stream back, like the video, subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I'll see you guys tomorrow night for another live stream. Have a good rest of the week and go the Warriors.
Yep, up the wires. See you later.
Yep.